All right. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the TFT Podcast. My name is Zil. It's good to have you all here today. I'm joined by my illustrious co-host, K-Libra. How are you doing, K-Libra?
Happy birthday, Zil.
Oh, thank you. And soon it will be your birthday as well.
Yeah, it will be this upcoming Monday.
Yeah. When this episode comes out, it will have been yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what's going to be happening. But yeah, as of now, Zil has leveled up, and I'm really happy about that.
Thank you. Yeah, I was really excited to receive a very special gift from you. I got a piece of home from you, which was very nice. From Brazil, as it were. Brazil. And also a model from Deep Space Nine, which was nice. And of course also Katana got me a fox hoodie to help with my fursuiting. So this is very nice.
Yeah, and it looks good on you.
Thank you. And I'm excited to give you your gift on Monday.
I'm really curious. I've been pleasantly surprised so far.
Okay, good. I think you're going to be more than just pleasantly surprised with this one. I'm actually very proud of it. So.
Okay, good. Also, this giant knuckles.
Yes, we love the giant knuckles that you got.
Giant huggable knuckles.
Yes, every time you squeeze him or clap, he vibrates.
Yeah, it's so weird. Why does this exist?
I don't know, but I will just say that to turn him on, you had to open up his pussy, so...
Man, why did you have to...
Oh. Shout out to Hornbuckle. All of my bussies are dedicated to Hornbuckle, so I'm just saying.
Thanks, Hornbuckle.
I'm really excited for the guest that we have with us today. But before we get to her, just a quick reminder, as always, that you can support us at patreon.com/TFTuesdayPod. Our patron is the best patron. There is no other patron that is better than ours, and I say that because it is run by me and Libra, so therefore it is the best patron. So if you want to support us putting a bussy counter on the videos, you can subscribe to the Patreon. We're not actually doing that. That would kill.
God.
That would kill us. But if you'd like to have one in spirit, you can always join and support us there. I don't know, do you have anything you want to say about the Patreon?
I want to say that you can use the Patreon to count the bussies that fucking Zil says for him.
Yes.
That's what you can do with it.
It's great. It's a great way to do it.
Otherwise, we will not pay attention.
Oh, my goodness. All right, well, that's it for our wonderful plug. I'm very excited to introduce our guest. So, Guppy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey, hello, I am Guppy, also known as Guppy's Paw or Vicentes. And yes, hello.
Hello. I'm really glad to have you on. You know, I will disclose you are on our Patreon, but more importantly, you do amazing art, and I was curious just to hear a little bit as to how you came into the TF fandom broadly.
Well, to be honest, at first I was not exposed to much TF content as when I was little, when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. Especially because what you find on internet is almost always on English. And when I was little, I didn't speak English because I'm not a native English speaker. I am from Latin America. I'm Ecuadorian. Hello, hola. Spanish is my first language. So most of what introduced me on the first signs of TF content was, well, just TV shows. Especially everything that appeared on Cartoon Network, because I used to watch a lot of Cartoon Network when I was little, which wasn't much. There was not much TF stuff on the Cartoon Network stuff. But you know, there was Dragon Ball Z. Apparently Dragon Ball Z is like a very formative thing for a lot of people, and hey, I am here too. And some werewolf movies, of course. And you know that one random werewolves episode that's always on every show. There's always one werewolf episode on every show, you know.
Oh yeah.
And of course, at the time, Ben 10, I don't know if you know that series, Ben 10. I don't know if that's the name in English.
Oh yeah.
It's about a boy that turns into aliens because a witch. I love that show, just the first one. But I don't really take much inspiration on that type of transformations because I am more of other type of transformation that we might talk about later. But continuing, when I was like 9 or 10 years old, my parents bought a Nintendo DS for me and my siblings, and we are 3. I have a twin sister and an older brother, and my brother liked Castlevania. And we had all the Nintendo DS Castlevania games, and I became like really obsessed with Castlevania because it was full of monsters and cool creatures, and that also kind of introduced me into the Gothic theme and monsters and vampires and you know all that sexy stuff. And he also introduced me into metal music, the genre metal music, which might not seem important right now, but maybe if we get to that part of a story, I will say why it's important for me to be a metalhead.
Okay, sounds good. Could you tell me what Castlevania games you played? I'm curious.
I played Castlevania Portrait of Ruins, Castlevania Dawn of Sorrow, and my favorite Castlevania game, which is Castlevania Order of Ecclesia. I love Castlevania Order of Ecclesia.
Oh, I can. So, can I take the really painfully answer as to why you like Order of Ecclesia, or?
Yeah,
because I did play that game.
I like that game in specific. First off, the first reason is because the protagonist is it's a woman. It's a woman, of course. The soundtrack in that game is just chef kiss. It's like the best soundtrack in all the Nintendo DS games, Castlevania Nintendo DS games.
Oh.
I love that soundtrack.
First I heard
and the designs are very sexy. Like that's the best Dracula ever in that game. The best Dracula ever. And that's why I like Order of Ecclesia. Yeah, it's also like very a very important part of my childhood.
That's a pretty good way. That's a pretty good one to have because I did not play Order of Ecclesia until way later. Yeah, and just let Zil know, Shanoa can turn into 3 different things, which is like a cat woman, a succubus-looking demon, and a silly one where she's like a weird stumpy robot.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And you're kind of like, what is the fucking point of this form?
Yeah.
But it's to get places you otherwise can't with the other 2.
Okay, that makes sense.
So it's really useful, but you can totally also not get any of those forms as powers.
Really?
Yeah, you can overlook them.
Oh.
So you kind of got to go out of your way to get them, but once you do, they're yours, and you can turn into them anytime you want for any duration that you want, as long as it's convenient and works.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is the cat TF sexy?
I like it.
Okay.
I'll show it to you later.
Okay. Yeah, I want to see
the way.
this now.
I love the way she actually moves.
The cat, yeah.
Yes.
It was very, very sexy.
Yeah, because once you get the robot, you can go to places that like really secret places.
Oh, okay, I see. Yeah.
The robot's like, what the fuck is this for? Oh.
It clearly becomes apparent after a while.
Yep. So yeah, I think I never played Portrait of Ruin, but yeah, I'll probably do that sometime. Castlevania is really fun. I have like my other picks. I think it's really cool that you started on those games because since I started late, I really appreciated what they've made over the years.
Yeah.
Yeah, Castlevania is like very important to me. It might not seem like that because I don't scream about it that much on Twitter or something, but Castlevania is like really important to me. But of course, those weren't the only games I played on the DS. There was also,
Of course,
Mortal Kombat. I am a huge fan of Mortal Kombat 2.
We have some stuff to talk about then.
yeah, Libra loves fighting games, so
Oh, interesting.
yeah.
Yes. I don't know how far to go into that, but yeah.
Well, coming back to more Guppy lore, I didn't knew English at the time, of course, and I, of course, didn't knew that there was more people like me, weirdos that enjoying see people turning into stuff, things like that, and I was actually like very, very insecure about that because like you see all the other kids enjoying their stuff, and then there is me that I enjoy these really weird things about men turning into werewolves or something, and I don't know, I was like a bit baffled about the fact that no other girls or even boys liked werewolves the way I like them. So this became some kind of secret to me. Consider the context that I studied on a religious school, and I was like a little girl, and the idea is that I was supposed to like girly things like the rest of my classmates, and girly things are quite boring. So I actually found myself playing more with boys, and I was like a very aggressive little girl playing with boys. And I was like so insecure about this that I didn't even mention it to the closest person I have, which was my sister, my twin sister. I'm like very close with my twin sister, and I didn't even say that to her. By the way, her name is Julius. Like not her real name, her nickname Julius. And she actually likes werewolves too. She ended up liking werewolves too. Then
very nice.
When I got free access to the internet, and I also start learning English, I created a Tumblr account, and I joined fandoms of video games and stuff I liked. And the first big fandom I joined was Undertale, around 2015, I think. And I don't know if you know how was the Undertale fandom, but
I do, unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
I've heard things.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Yeah. It was something. It was something.
It sure was something.
The Undertale fandom had was, it was something. That fandom was something. But one thing the fandom had was an insane amount of AUs, alternative universe. There is one AU called Gaster Blaster AU. I don't know if that's how you say AU. But, well, AU.
Yeah, no, it is. It is.
It is.
Well, the Gaster Blaster AU, Gaster Blaster being these skull things that Sans used to shoot beams on his fight, and it was technically Werewolf AU, but with the skeletons. And I started drawing about that, and that's how I got into all this. I suddenly noticed that people really like it when I met the skeletons turning into creatures, and it was like shocking to me because remember I was like very nervous and very insecure about this weird life I had with werewolves.
Yeah.
And I start learning about terms. I slowly realized about the furry fandom and this whole thing about TF. Actually, the first introduce I have to the TF was because there was one artist that was also like really obsessed with this Gaster Blaster AU, and that artist was a TF artist, and I saw the TF content they made time to time, and I was like, what is this? And it was like the first actual time that I saw a legit TF artist. I think their name was Space Cat, something like that. So I have to admit that at first I avoided it because there was like ton of adult content around it, not safe for work stuff. Yeah. And that time Tumblr still had didn't ban not safe for work stuff, and I was still underage. And it's not like I didn't consume not safe for work content, because I did at some point.
Yeah.
But it was not like such an interest for me at that time. And I found it kind of weird and low-key off-putting, but later, and I grew and I started to mix transformations with the idea of something more sexual. Well, that's another story. But that happened especially when I started college, like 3-4 years ago, because I studied contemporary art, actually. And studying contemporary art actually changed your perception of reality, like really bad.
Right.
Meanwhile, I also realized that perhaps liking TF was not that weird. It is weird. Well, or at least it's not like a harmful thing to like, even though sometimes I touch dangerous zones with it, but whatever. And that's it. Guppy lore.
Yeah, I want to say though, and I'm glad you've kind of come to that realization. Like, I don't think that liking transformation is anything more out there than, say, I don't know, being like really obsessed with like trains or something. Like, we all have like interests, and I think that transformation especially is this storytelling trope or genre or whatever word you want to use for it that has existed for like literally millennia in storytelling. So if anything, it's something that's more essential to the human like mind than a lot of other interests that we have in this day and age. So, but I'm glad that like studying contemporary art helped to shift your perspective and make you feel more comfortable with your interest in transformation.
Yeah, it's also because I've seen stuff happening in contemporary art and perhaps weirder than someone turning into a werewolf. So
yeah.
It's like, I mean, there are weirder stuff in this world. I've met people with weirder likes than me. So yeah, at the end I was like, maybe I'm not that weird compared to these people.
Yeah, and it's all right, because I think what makes it strange, especially to people who aren't into it, is that it is a very particular thing to focus on people changing and just around that concept in general. That's why we have this niche, because you definitely notice that a lot of other content is not centered around How does it feel? What are they turning into? How often do they turn into it? What does it look like?
What happens after?
Yeah, what happens after, or what triggers it? All that stuff. And yeah, there really isn't any kind of there isn't a focus quite like it.
Yeah.
And that's why it can be singled out as either an element or just something to enjoy. And I also don't think it's very weird in general to like it also, because when people get into stuff, they can get into a specific storytelling element and they can just kind of be the same. I think the only difference is that because the community is small, sometimes it feels, and it feels small because there's only so many people willing to talk.
Yeah.
So you only get a few people talking, then there's only a few ideas that float around, and it feels like there isn't really very much to the whole thing. Which is why, remember, earlier on, the question was like, how many episodes, how much content, how many things can you really talk about with this stuff? A lot. We're still going. But you wouldn't know it, you wouldn't think about it if you just stick to like the one aspect that you enjoy or that you consume. It is such a broad thing that it's why I don't think it's weird. You can bring pieces of this to other people and they can get into it just fine. Or they can at least appreciate it for the time that you're talking about it.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a great way of looking at it. And I also think that, unlike a lot of other storytelling elements, this is one that, and I'm not saying it's the only one, but I think this one in particular encourages a lot of introspection and thought about how you navigate the world. And I don't think that there's many storytelling tropes that can have that same effect on someone. Again, I'm not saying TF is the only one, but I think that it stands head and shoulders over a lot of other ones.
I think it just does the job in a way that none other can.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Otherwise there's plenty that can be used to equal and or greater effects.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Because otherwise it would be boring.
Yeah, I agree. And it's actually interesting the thing that you say that maybe because we are so deep into this, perhaps we already have like a mindset towards transformation, and we are like, okay, transformation is this, transformation is that, and yada yada. But because of because I do a particular type of TF content, I actually get a lot of people that don't know nothing about TF, and they suddenly see my stuff and they're like, oh. And the first thing I thought the people would say, or the first reaction I thought people would have, was going to be like, I don't know, something bad, like maybe they will not like the idea of their favorite character transforming into werewolves or something like that. I actually I haven't had bad comments in all these years.
That's good.
And that says a lot, I think. Like, perhaps transformation is more common than we thought.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really good point, and I wanted to touch on that because, one thing that is very apparent in your art is that you have this penchant for using canon fictional characters as your TF subjects, and so I'm glad that you've had good reactions. I'm curious what drew you to using canon characters as your TF subjects.
Well, that's an easy answer. I'm an autistic person. No, I'm joking. But it's an easy answer, and it's the fact that I tend to overfixate with characters when I enter new fandoms, and naturally I become silly enough to start imagining TF scenarios with them, and it has always been like that.
Do you feel like you have more of a connection with these canon characters sometimes than you would with, say, like just a completely original character?
Well, first off, I do have OCs, and I also turn them into creatures, even if their stories is not around that. For example, I have characters that are not werewolves, and I turn them into werewolves anyways because I'm just a deranged individual, I'm very normal. Yeah. And well, yes, part of the reason why I like using canon characters is because there is like really a base which I could work with, and since most of my personal work is about characters I simp. Well, I know them a lot. I know them a lot. And it's just fun to try to figure out a way of making context of why a canon character would transform into something, especially if the character is like completely a part of a transformation context, like no transformation has ever happened in front of them or something like that. Right. Of course, it's not the same to turn a really werewolf character into a werewolf than turning a character that's completely clueless into a werewolf.
Yeah.
Because, yeah?
Oh, I was just going to say, no, I think that's really interesting that you say that, because I find oftentimes when I think about transformation in the context of canon characters, at least for me, my mind goes a little bit more to like the idea of, and again this depends on the franchise and the characters, but my mind often goes to the idea of like transformation being something that they might be at least a little tangentially aware of. And so it's interesting to approach it from the angle of like you are introducing it brand new as like a concept that they're not necessarily aware of, and now they're being confronted with it because they're, turning into a werewolf.
Yeah. Most of the time, werewolf characters are used like, well, not only werewolf characters, and it also happens with shapeshifters or any other type of character that turns into something. And it's the fact that they follow the trope, the character that turns into something. No, and they are cool. I love them, but in most content media, those type of characters are like made for that. Everything around them is about transformation here, transformation there, transformation and more transformation. And again, it's like a cool thing. But if I do fan art of them, I won't be doing something interesting, in my opinion, because what the character already does, which is transform, it's already done on the show or game or whatever. So if I take a character that doesn't have a transformation context, there is always a ton of there is already context for them, solid context, and they all have their meanings and stuff, and me adding transformation to them is just like adding a bit of spice because again I'm just a deranged individual. I like drama.
Drama's good. I like drama.
Yeah, that's what some people say.
Oh man. Yeah, no, I think that's really cool. One of the things that I like about your artwork, and it's something that I see you return to a lot in your personal work, is definitely the shocking, the surprise, the not knowing what's happening and what to do with themselves as they're transforming. And it feels like that ties in with your kind of, thought process when it comes to transforming these canon characters. There's that sense of, how is this character going to react to such a shocking and unknown thing that is happening to them in that moment? And let me show that in very vivid detail.
What's the appeal for that?
For what?
Because that's for wanting to see the shock and surprise of a character turning into stuff. it's a very specific thing that I never tapped into. And although I can appreciate in a really surface level way the the appeal of it, I don't really get it fully. I can only ever say, oh yes, that's an interesting thing to play with, I'm sure, but that doesn't mean I get it, you know. So I think I think both of you have stakes in that. I don't know if you could tell me, like, what is it about that?
Well, I think okay. I like unwilling and painful transformations. And I like characters like being in that situation. Mostly my favorite characters, because I like hearing them screaming and being in pain, because again I'm a deranged person. But there is like a whole story, let's say that, of why I like unwilling and painful transformation. But why I do that to canon characters is because I don't know, I just like to see characters suffering. And I like to see my favorite character suffering.
Yeah. So, I mean, I can say that as well, that, like, you know, I think to step away from the transformation context, but to talk broadly about how I see things with characters in general when I'm writing them, like, there is something that I find interesting in terms of, you know, you make your little meow meow suffer a little bit, and it produces an interesting story. I find that when it comes to characters going through these kinds of situations, the story that you can tell can sometimes be more compelling, especially if the character is going to get character growth out of it. So, for example, and I guess I'm not thinking so much about canon characters right now, I'm speaking more about my own original characters, but, you know, I've played in many different Dungeons and Dragons campaigns where my character has transformation worked into their backstory, and it's not necessarily something that they were excited for or wanted to necessarily happen. I obviously am sitting here rubbing my hands together with glee, like, yes, and then my OCTF'd because, that makes me happy. But, oftentimes the way that I work it in is because it's in service of a character arc. And oftentimes when you are doing character writing or character development, if you want to make a story interesting, there does need to be a little bit of suffering, or at least, a setback for the hero, so, to speak. So, to use an example, I had a character in a Dungeons and Dragons campaign who started out as a human and wanted to become a dragon. And he wanted to become a dragon for a variety of different reasons, some of them being escaping capitalism, which I think is a mood, but more importantly, he just thought they were neat. It was just like, holding the potato, I just think they're neat, I would like to be that. And he tried to make a potion to TF himself. He fashioned himself as a bit of an alchemist, and he actually turned into a kobold instead. And so part of his quest in the campaign was, how do I go from kobold to dragon? And, he had a lot of trauma that he needed to unpack from that process. It came at a point of great emotional stress for himself. His daughter had just died, but there was meaning behind the initial transformation and his final goal, and he learned to be a better person before he reached that final goal of becoming, what he perceived to be as a better external form. So I think that when it comes to making characters, suffer, in quotations, at the end of the day, they are just, figments of our imagination, but I find that you can tell a really interesting story when those characters go through those situations. And that's not to detract from stories that have, there's no suffering and everything's great. Like, those are good too, but I find that I have a particular interest in that kind of storytelling approach because it can yield something very interesting, and it can also make the audience reflect on, how they view certain topics or issues or things like that.
I get that. I have it's been well over 10
I know.
minutes.
You haven't mentioned Berserk yet.
Yeah, so Berserk is like one of my favorite stories.
Yeah.
And everything you said is steeped in Berserk enough to turn so many people off to it. But I get that. And I'm okay with that. And I resonate with that. The reason I asked the question isn't because of that I can understand, but that's not what we get out of the content. When there's an interest in just kind of creating discomfort, pain, anguish, things like that, that's not a story that we're getting out of it. Like, that's the point.
So
it seems sometimes.
So I disagree a little bit, but I'll explain what I mean by that. If, for example, I know we're talking more about art, because in writing, obviously...
Well, no, I'm talking about, like, not necessarily art. I'm talking about, like, the content that people, like, take in a lot. Because what people end up taking in more than anything is pictures, drawn stuff.
Yeah.
I get the point of using suffering to tell a story, build a character, create drama, and enjoy things. But the reason I'm asking about it is because often when the content gets made, it's often not in these long form stories that connect with one another and eventually reach some kind of conclusion of growth. A lot of it is, short bite-sized experiences where the point of it is they have gone through this and enjoy that specific thing.
Yeah. So I will take a shot at that, and then Guppy, please feel free to chime in. The thing that I would say when it comes to like art that's depicting these kinds of things, oftentimes the artist, in my opinion, and again I'm speaking more from personal experience, but you have a little bit of a headcanon as to like what that means for the character and what part of the story you are depicting. And even if it's not depicting the entire kind of thought process you have in your mind, you are kind of thinking out of like, okay, I've shown this part, but this is what it means to me in my head. Like, this is where they started and this is where they're going to go, and I've depicted the part that is most visually interesting.
Yeah. And I usually take the character I resonate more with, and usually it's the type of character I like are like characters that are like sometimes villains or anti-heroes, because I don't like protagonist characters. I don't like that trope much. Sometimes it depends. I've taken some protagonists before, but I usually take the villains or the more like neutral characters, and I have like these headcanons about them, and when I took them and I made them go through a transformation, sometimes they mean something, sometimes they don't mean a thing. I don't do it by thinking something in specific, but I don't know. I just find appealing to see someone not having a good time, and I do think that I actually like that because of my personal social context. It's like a reflection of that, and I don't know if you want to to hear that story.
No, I think that would be interesting to hear, because it's clearly had a big effect on how you approach art within transformation.
So I like unwilling, painful transformations. And well, I live in South America. Something that people might not know about countries here is the amount of real violence that there is here. Me personally, I do suffer just by the fact that I am a woman, and I've been through very disgusting situations through my entire life, things that I'm not going to specify.
Yeah.
But well, because of that, I also learned that to live my daily life, I need to be a bit of an aggressive lady, and I do also have to be somehow tolerant to the aggression that the rest of the society has also have. And there is also the whole drug dealing thing and political corruption, which might seem that it doesn't directly affect people or affect us, but it does. It certainly does. And perhaps international news don't say it, but violence sometimes is so bad that you cannot walk on the street without the fear of looking something that you should not have seen, witnessed.
Yeah.
And that could cost your life or the life of your family. No, that's a reality I live. So imagine growing up with that. And I was lucky because my nuclear family was very stable and supportive. I'm also very lucky myself because, again, I am a woman. I'm always in danger, and I've known that since I was like a little girl. Everyone told me that I needed to be careful because things happen to little girls sometimes. So with that context, it kind of makes sense that I end up liking violent content media. It's like I'm just so used to see that I kind of go to that. And that's where all these, my fears came were Mortal Kombat, Castlevania, The Binding of Isaac. And I was also the type of girl that watched Happy Tree Friends on YouTube. When YouTube didn't care much about gore.
Oh,
you know what Happy Tree Friends is? It's a very...
Yes, oh, absolutely. Very gory, yeah.
Apparently that the writing team for that show also wrote for a Sonic game.
That's funny.
I know that.
Yeah.
That's really funny.
I think... Was it Sonic Colors?
Oh my god.
But it was good.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I enjoyed Happy Tree Friends too, so I get the appeal.
Yeah, I liked Happy Tree Friends a lot. Like, I don't know why I just liked that program, but anyways.
Okay, I'll meet you all halfway on this. I do have really morbid curiosities. I indulge in them in the way that I just want to see, because imagining it doesn't feel like it's enough.
Yeah.
So it's like, just show me the fucking thing. I can't stop thinking about it. My mind wants to complete the image.
Yeah.
So that's where I go with that.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm watching something where people are going through a lot of fucking pain and suffering, if I'm interested in that, it's because my mind really just wants to complete the image. I haven't been through anything like Guppy has, but it's there, and it's something that a lot of people have in different measures.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, and it seems to me that this kind of goes in line with a theme of using transformation as how do I want to put this? It's a way to play with power dynamics.
Yeah.
Both, like no matter what angle you want to play it at, if it's you surrendering your autonomy and your body, or you making other people do it, or enhancing, or diminishing, or something, it is so much to do with power and the feeling of it, and that's why I also look critically at that stuff and see what's trying to be said. Because when I look at Guppy's art, I don't know. You said you like suffering and things like that. But there's more going on from what I can see. Like with the comic that you had of somebody running away, and I think they were running away from a cult or a cultist, and the friend turns out to be the werewolf or something like that. And I was like, oh, there's something there. It's not just suffering for the sake of suffering. No. There is something else being explored.
Yeah.
And that's why I was saying before that I was wondering what it is about that, because when you both mentioned, your experience, Guppy, and you, Zil, with the with looking for a way to meaningfully grow a character, I get that stuff. It's just like I said, there's a lot of really bite-sized content, and it seems like the cruelty is the point to me sometimes. and that's where I was getting at.
Yeah.
But I perfectly accept like both of these things. They make a lot of sense to me.
I think it makes sense as well, Guppy, that based on your experiences, that it has become such an important theme in the media you enjoy to consume and then put out as well. To me, it speaks to a way to reclaim, in a sense, control over the violence and redirect it in a different way, in a way that you kind of have the onus of control and the agency to do with it what you will. I mean, I think that totally makes sense to me. So,
do you agree with that?
Kind of. I like that, but that's not really the point. Sometimes, I don't know how to explain this. Okay, I am obsessed with God stuff. Okay, I know this might not make so much sense. I am obsessed with Gothic stuffs, and God, it's like all this dark and people wearing like vampires and things like that. Perhaps it might not seem so obvious because also my art is not like that dark. I actually use like a lot of colors, but I actually take a lot of inspiration of Gothic themes, especially again music, black metal, death metal, goth and doom, which is like, I think that's especially the type of genre that I take inspiration from. And I don't know if you have heard some goth or doom metal music, but there is always this like suffering these people is like saying that they are going through, but it's a type of suffering that is not just like, oh, it's suffering, I am suffering, I'm in pain, I want to die. It's like, it's suffering, yes, but it's like a good type of suffering. I don't know if that makes sense. And I
think that makes sense. I'm a big My Chemical Romance fan, so.
Oh, this might come like really edgy. But
that's okay. But sorry, you were saying.
Yeah, I like that type of romanticism of the suffering, because I think suffer is a part of being human. No, I actually see unwilling and painful, fast transformations as an allegory to suffering as part of being human. Because the main thing you see on those type of transformations is, of course, people suffering, and there is nothing more that humans that are crying or at least expressing themselves in some way because they are going through something that's not comfortable for them. And to cry, to not like that type of thing is like natural to the human being. But pain and suffering, it's just a temporary thing. You're not supposed to be suffering all the time. Like, you're supposed to suffer time to time, but it's not supposed to be a constant suffering for the rest of your life. Like, just small places in time that you suffer a lot, and you are like crying and not having a good time, but that at some point ends and you return to be yourself, but change in some way. So that's like my approach to it. It's like, of course they don't like what's happening to them, but it's like a kind of necessary suffering that they are going through. And sometimes when I do characters going to that type of suffering, some of them perhaps like going through suffering. And but that depends on the character. That's why I say that I liked working with canon characters, because they have like this already established personality that I don't have to think by myself. And again, I have OCs, and I also turn them into werewolves even if they are not werewolves. But it's like harder for me to try to put out something interesting, for me at least. And I make a whole story. Sometimes I use lazy, and I like to take something that's already there and work with it.
I find it really ironic, because a lot of people may see your work and think, "Oh yes, this is something that is to remove the humanity from it," but it's the opposite for you from what you describe. You're highlighting humanity and kind of putting the essence of what it means to go through it, at least for us. Everything kind of expresses and processes its suffering in its own way. We got it. And I think with enough understanding, you can connect with that. And I think that's one of the things I can appreciate about your work. And that's also why I think it's an important question to ask if you're making that kind of content, or if you're enjoying it. Like, what's in it for you?
I mean, I do it because I like doing it. I used to like it.
Well, no,
I like looking my 5 characters.
I was not meaning to ask the question again. You both told me in really good detail exactly what it is.
Yeah, and I appreciate you kind of sharing your thoughts on that, because I think it's a perspective that doesn't always get heard, particularly within these spaces, and I think that it's incredibly well thought out and meaningful. So I appreciate you sharing kind of those insights, because I think, to me, I just value that, having more of an audience to hear it, because I think it's a message that is important to hear.
Yeah, art is an incredibly personal thing, and depending on what you're going through or how you've grown up, it's going to speak its own message. Yeah. I think that people need to understand that when they're looking at something, it's going to be through that more than anything. It's not going to be as cut and dry, even though it seems like something silly or something dramatic. It's really pulling from, it may very well be pulling from something you really don't understand.
Yeah. So then I'm curious, going back to the canon characters in particular, are there any franchises that you in particular like pulling from for characters? Are there any that you find you keep coming back to?
I usually like franchise that already have like a fantasy setting on them, even though I said before that the most separated the card is for a transformation setting, the best is for me. But anyways, I like when there is like a bit of logical context inside the story. That happens only when I want to make some kind of content. Sometimes I don't care about the context, I just draw whatever. Or I put out a trigger of my eyes, like the last thing I did with the hot dog and Arcanite transformation.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's great.
Lately, my favorite franchise have been JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And why? Well, Bizarre is in the name. There's a lot of shit happening in there all the time. And people literally cannot tell me that I can take a character and turn it into whatever I want, because just to name a few things that have happened on JoJo's, Yusuke, which is one of the protagonists, almost turned into an electric tower. A character got turned into a piece of paper. There is a cat that turned into a plant. In another part, there is a character that can turn people into snails. In other part, a villain, well, it's a vampire. Then another character appears that can turn into a dinosaur. Then there's also this dude that have a fetish with the Mona Lisa hands. So there's like a ton of shit happening on yo-yos, and I just can work with it. Like I don't even need context for yo-yos because yo-yos is bizarre.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like a fun little, I don't know, yo-yos is fun. Like the characters, their scenes are very pretty, the colors, the aesthetic of the show. I like yo-yos. Well, there is also Mortal Kombat, but I've never done actual TFR of it yet, but it will most likely happen at some point soon. Perhaps I already made it, but I haven't posted. I don't know.
I haven't seen a lot of it. Nobody's done stuff with animalities or anything.
No, and animalities are like a very old thing in Mortal Kombat. I'm surprised.
Okay, you got to remember that because of how everybody grew up, fighting games are also kind of a niche thing. Mm-hmm. I am surprised when I find people who are into this stuff, but also into fighting games. There's plenty, but I have to go looking for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the idea that you would have somebody who's into fighting games, also happens to be in the Mortal Kombat, and was either aware of or playing Mortal Kombat when everybody had an animality. And animalities, by the way, for anybody who doesn't already know, they turn into animals. Also, it's really fucking stupid most of the time. And you would think that, they would turn into, like Sub-Zero would turn into a fucking polar bear and maul you. No, he turns into a penguin, walks over, lays an egg, and the egg blows you up. It's really stupid.
Oh, that's amazing.
I forget what the fuck Scorpion turns into, but it's not a scorpion.
No, Scorpion turns into a bunny, I think. No, I actually think that Sub-Zero turned into a bunny, and Scorpion turned into the penguin that laid that egg that explodes. And the one that turned into Scorpion was this character called Shiva. That's
it was
like
Shiva.
A woman with four arms.
Turned into it. which made at least a little bit of sense, because she has 4 arms and 2 legs.
Yeah.
So she could be a scorpion, but Scorpion was not a scorpion.
Yes.
Wait, wasn't the bunny Sonya or something? I don't remember.
No, I don't remember either.
There's so much. I remember one animality was somebody turning to like some kind of monkey, and they didn't actually kill him, but they chased them like back and forth on the stage because they caught him. They'd be fucking dead.
Oh my god!
Really, really good. Mortal Kombat is dumb in a lot of great ways.
Yeah. Mortal Kombat is like super gory, but also the gore is like super stupid. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It is so over the top. The gore is so over the top that you look in abject horror, but fascination more than anything. Because actual violence will make you want to just real violence is very different from sensational violence. I think people don't understand that.
Yeah.
Which is why, and I know there's a little bit of a tangent, but just to give people an idea of like where I come from with depicting, the stuff we've been talking about, characters suffering and pain.
Yeah.
Something like Manhunt was a huge deal. I don't know if either of you played Manhunt before or heard about it.
Not.
I think I heard it. It was a gun shooting thing.
No. Okay. So just real quick, Manhunt was a Rockstar game, and the premise was that you wake up in some place that seems to be inhabited by killers. You are constantly being videotaped, no matter where you go, and the idea is that you are being held prisoner by somebody who is pretty much making snuff films, and they're going to be watching you try to get through this gauntlet of murderers and killers. And in order to do it, you got to kill them with whatever you can find, and they want you to do it as violent as possible. And you can actually control the level of violence that you actually inflict on somebody with the tool you want to kill them with.
Wow.
It is incredibly fucked up.
Yeah.
Incredibly fucked up. And it's one of those games that touches more on what real violence is like, and it's extremely uncomfortable. You know, you do not play that game if you do not want to be made to feel uncomfortable. It's very unique in that regard. Mortal Kombat is not like that.
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat will show you things that'll make you be like, oh god, that's fucking horrible, but you'll move along because you know that you won't be you won't be like spaghettified into a black hole with your organs being trailed.
Yeah.
It looks disgusting, but it's also like, what the fuck am I seeing?
Yeah, how did you come up with this? Yeah.
But it's
no,
very
that makes
different
sense.
if you're playing Manhunt and you get to decide exactly how badly you want to kill this person with a plastic bag. That image is burned into my mind. And that's, again, I tie this to the subject because, I mean, the influences it has on us and what we want to see.
Yeah. Well, I want to make sure we have time for the other topics, but I have one last question in this kind of arena for you, Guppy. Let's say that you had to pick a transformation for a canon character that maybe you've never interacted with before, maybe for like a commission. How would you go about picking a TF for Ratchet from Ratchet and Clank and for Lilith from Darkstalkers Vampire Savior?
I actually don't know who are them.
Oh, you
So
don't
I
know them
can
at all.
tell-
Okay, that's fine. I think it's really interesting that we kind of talked a lot about, I guess, the impact of, like, you know, violence and that sort of thing in the context of canon characters, because something that I've noticed from your work is that you work with both safe for work and not safe for work pieces, but overall your personal work actually tends towards safe for work. And so I know you have interest in both elements broadly, but I'd like to better understand why you choose to focus on safe for work content in your personal stuff.
Well, most of the reason why I usually work more with safe for work stuff is because I don't see the necessity of doing of doing it not safe for work, because as I mentioned, most of the time my interest is in making the character going through like a painful and fast willing transformation, and kind of work with the context of the character and yada yada. But I actually sometimes like doing not safe for work, of course, with transformation also. But you know, it's like funny to try to because I have like two accounts. Okay, I have Guppy's Pau Guppy, which is the safe for work, and then I have Vicente's. And if you notice, sometimes I put some transformation art that is not really not safe for work in the sense of showing genitals on the
Right.
not safe for work, and then I put some other questionable stuff on the safe for work. And I sometimes have like I don't know where to put one piece, because maybe it's like to not safe for work, but what is not safe for work, to be honest, because sometimes to make the separation in what thing is safe for work and what thing is not safe for work, it's like hard to define, because like I said, sure, explicit sexual content is not safe for work, but not everything involving sex is like explicit, and there is nudity that it's not really aimed to be sexual. And apart from that,
Right.
where exactly horror lands, like it's body horror not safe for work, it's low or mid gore not safe for work. And again, going back to what kind of gore is like the real hard thing, and what other gore it's not, like, you know, so hard. Where those that land, where specific undertones should be on that not safe for work category. And I don't know, sometimes I just do whatever. So sometimes, and as I've heard in other episodes of the podcast, for some people a transformation, just by being a transformation, is like a really not safe for work thing because for some people they see a transformation that perhaps is not it's not showing genitals, but by just the fact that it's a transformation for some people it's like a turn on, and it's like I don't know.
Yeah,
I get what you mean. It's things can always push buttons. It's implicit content. You see stuff that bleeds into what you like. I don't think too hard about how to label that stuff, mostly because the way we're sharing it, you got these things laid out for you, and what matters most, I think, is knowing what you're showing and to who. After that, it's really just a matter of, as you're sharing it, you just you label it the way you think it fits best, only for the sake of making sure that it's not that complicated for the creator. Because if you start to really weigh out what counts as safe to show people and what isn't, or is okay to be seen over your shoulder at your job, you can really extrapolate a lot of weird shit from a lot of places, and that's that we don't need that kind of thing. People need to be able to have some media literacy and also just understand what the fuck something is and when to bring it up. What's not safe for work as well? Whipping out your Game Boy or your DS or your Switch. That shit's generally not safe to do at work.
That's true. Actually, that's a very good point. I think I think the thing that stands out to me the most, though, at least in terms of how you frame it, Guppy, is that your interest just it can be, but it's not really focused on any sort of nudity or anything. It's more about the painful process.
So much nudity, but eroticism.
Yeah, it's not the eroticism. It's not about the eroticism. Sorry, you're right. That's what I meant to say.
Maybe.
Only maybe, huh?
Only maybe. Okay. All right.
Maybe.
That's fine. You just had somebody who was maybeing for a little while, so you do your journey as you will.
Well, because I think even sometimes, when I see stuff in your art, I think there are things that could be considered like an undercurrent, if that makes sense, of you can infer more suggestive or tense themes from some of these pieces that may be considered safe for work. Would you say that's your intention, or is that more I'm reading into something?
Sometimes I do put some undertones that might not be so safe for work in some safe for work pieces. Yeah, sometimes. But overall, I don't feel like it's a bad thing that people have their own opinions on a safe for work piece, because people can think whatever about a piece. There is maybe something that the original artist made thinking on something, and then I go and I see that piece and I see a completely different thing, and I'm personally okay with that. So if people see not safe for work undertones in my quote unquote safe for work then it's okay. No, what I should say is that if there is something in my safe for work account, and perhaps there is someone that want to tell me that I saw this and I saw this that's not safe for work, and they can tell me that it's cool. I like to read that, but not to comment super subjective stuff in my safe for work act, because I have my not safe for work account for something and I don't want to mix those two things in the same place. I don't want the PPs to be in the same place of my actual safe for work.
Yeah, I get that. If you want to make something that's horny, you'll do it, and you'd rather not have people force a tone onto it. I understand that completely, and yeah, I make a lot of porn, but if I wanted to make something and somebody will start horny posting at me like, ooh, and what are they going to turn into? This character looks ripe for it. Fuck off, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there are so many people that do that, and I get immediately exhausted, and my tolerance just goes right the fuck away.
Yeah,
I don't appreciate that, and that's why I like being able to ask people what is the point of what you're doing. It's also just nice to talk about, because it's good to communicate that stuff, I think, especially between creative types or just fans. It's a thoughtful conversation, all that stuff.
Yeah. So then I'm curious, do you have any advice for people who are trying to kind of stay safe for work in their focus, but often feel like they're being pulled in not safe for work directions, be it from people in the comments or people trying to like horny post at you?
I don't know, like no one should feel obligated to draw not safe for work if they don't want to. And if people is starting to horny post on main, perhaps to say it will be a good idea. Like, hey, don't say this stuff in my work. This is a safe for work account, and I prefer those comments to be on DM or something like that. I don't know. I actually have some friends that have that problem. Friends that also do werewolf content, and they do rather safe for work stuff, and they are constantly getting like horny comments and stuff like that, and like first off, that's like annoying because if you're looking at a safe for work like it's a clearly safe for work piece, and then you have someone in the comments like, oh, that's sexy, oh, that wolf man, oh, I want. It's like, I don't know, it's like uncomfortable. And actually, I don't know. I don't know why people do that when it's safe for workplace. Like on Twitter, perhaps it's like an okay thing, but still a no, because you see when someone has a safe for work account. Usually, people have that on the bio. This is a safe for work account, and I know people should read that before doing comments and stuff like that. But in places like Instagram is you cannot horny post on Instagram. It's like, bro, don't do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't do that because it's not the place. Yeah. If you're in For Affinity, I understand that you are horny posting in For Affinity. For Affinity is the place to horny post, in fact. But on Instagram, no.
On the right pieces.
On Twitter, not really. It depends. And
it depends. But it always depends. But just because Fur Affinity is like free and clear to have so many levels of porn, I still would not want to. I'm gonna come with a tented pants at somebody in the comments, What the fuck?
Yeah, it's frustrating, and I think that, I know you were kind of thinking aloud about why people do these kinds of things. I mean, I think at the end of the day, sometimes people don't have a sense of the boundaries of others, and I think that's oftentimes because these people suffer from main character syndrome, as I like to call it, where it's like, this is clearly about me and my experience with this, and I need to tell you, an NPC in my story, how it affected me. And it's like, no, actually, you're not the main character, and
join my party right now.
Yeah. or stay away. It's like we are all experiencing the world in our own ways. And it's great that was your experience, but this is not the space to share it.
What was your experience to bring that shit to somebody?
Nothing of meaning to other people.
I'll tell you one thing. It's gets taught to a lot of boys because guys, and I know it's mostly fucking guys.
It is mostly
Don't
guys.
lie to me,
It is.
okay? It's guys who get taught that the way you're going to get somebody is to be assertive, and they don't know what the fuck that means. And they also don't understand that being assertive doesn't necessarily mean, pushing yourself on people. And that's what pisses me off.
Yeah.
This is why, okay, I'm glad that I can have conversations with people who don't make the kind of content I do a lot, because as much as I make porn and make stuff that I think is horny and attractive and all that, I still want to be able to talk to people on a basic creative level.
Yeah.
And I think that if you can't even do that as a viewer, as a fan, then you need to get your shit together for that.
Yeah.
However it needs to get done. That's not a way to interact with people. I have seen at least one account, and if I could remember the name, I wouldn't say it anyway because I don't want to give people shit. Actually did say in their profile, horny unwanted messages welcome. Right on the fucking profile. I don't see that. And I'm like, oh, okay, so you want people to give you the thirst posting and shit. You want to see those weird, creepy... Oh, wait, that was it. Weird and creepy comments welcome. That's what it said. Yeah. It actually said that, and I was like, wow. All right, then.
Yeah, well, hey, at least that person's saying up front that that's what they want, and most people don't.
Yeah, and that's really it.
Yeah.
People generally don't want that. If you don't understand that already, fuck, man.
Yeah. If you don't understand that already, we have a library of podcasts that you can listen to that tells you why you shouldn't do that.
Eventually, we're going to be part of that at this rate.
Yeah.
Fuck.
God. Oh, man. Well, I want to touch on werewolves a little bit because it's come up so many times, and I guess I think everyone has their own perspective, and I'm curious as to what about werewolves speaks specifically to you, Guppy.
Well, when I first saw werewolf content media, of course, it was always the meant to be trope, but in a a curse way, and that basically stuck with me since the first time I saw it. So I don't know. I like that. I like that because it kind of lines with what I've already said about suffering and people going through these stages of life that are not fun. And I don't know. I just find that fascinating, and also werewolves are super fun to draw, and there's a lot of varied. You can do whatever with werewolves because werewolves are not doesn't have rules, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so how do you like to make your werewolves? I've seen your work, but I see you also play around with it a lot. Is there certain things you like to get out of werewolves, or do you just kind of mess with it as much as you can?
A bit of both, actually, because what happened to werewolves is that most of the time werewolves stories happen on these very specific scenarios. It's always on North America or Europe or those kind of places, and it's werewolves sometimes have the same type of design, and I like to play with the design of the werewolves itself to try to perhaps if the werewolf look that way, it will communicate better this idea I have. And if the werewolf if werewolves have tail, that means they are more expressive, but if they don't have tails, they're more beast looking, and I just like to play with that. Yeah, I just like to play with that. I do feel all werewolf designs are valid. I don't I don't think there is a wrong werewolf design because all werewolf designs go with the story they are in, right? And if a werewolf was designed with those characteristics, then it's because it was it goes along with the story. And I try to do that too, and I also try to make werewolves like I like to also design werewolves that resemble the character I taking, because if every werewolf look the same, then I don't know, I don't find that so fun.
Yeah, I understand that. You want to keep things interesting.
Yeah, I can say that.
Yeah, absolutely. So then, when it comes to the designs, I'm glad that you like to play with them, because shapeshifters can have an infinite amount of expression, and I really, really love that idea that you'll do it to suit your needs. You're not going to follow rules or your preferences as much, and I actually think that's really good I think it's really good for people to expand their boundaries on that, depending on how you're feeling. How do you want them to look? Do you want them to have beadier eyes or bigger teeth, or do you want them to look meaner? Or I do like the fact that you acknowledge that having a tail would add expression, because I really like the idea of tails being expressive things more than anything.
Yeah, I also like, there is this thing that I did once, that I did 2 different werewolf design for the same character, and I did that because, well, the character, it's already there, it exists. If you know the character, you know him. And why I made 2 werewolf designs was because I had these 2 headcanons of, okay, if the werewolf means this in this situation, then the final form of the werewolf is going to look like this. And if the werewolf have this other context, then the werewolf is gonna look different. And that's why you have one werewolf that look like a dark and scary wolf monster thing, and the other design look like a golden retriever.
Actually, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I like to play with that. I like to make things like a bit different. I know that werewolves have the meant to be strong and edginess, but I do think that werewolves also have the ability to communicate other things. Werewolves are just fun. Are fun to work with, and I love them.
Yeah, and I'm glad, and yeah, I just really enjoy the amount of things that you could do with any kind of monster. And then it makes me wonder, if you're doing. Okay, so if you're speaking to the purpose of like what a werewolf, what you want the werewolf to express or something like that. Usually, when you see a werewolf, it's a lot of puberty allegories and stuff. And do you feel like werewolves had an impact on you growing up, or other allegories revolving around puberty or stuff like that?
Mm-hmm. When I was growing up, I just liked werewolves when I was a kid. I didn't really feel like connected with them in a sense of that they helped me to grow up or something like that, because I didn't knew that werewolves could have that type of metaphorical meaning when I was a kid. But I definitely see werewolves as a very good allegory to puberty in both male and female puberty. It just works fine. It's like it works fine for both.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't see any reason that it would be different. I think it would be really fucking weird if somebody specifically distinguish why it should be for only one.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Mm-hmm.
Has anybody done that?
I've seen people do kind of stuff.
Really?
Like
There are stories where werewolves are only male characters. I think Teen Wolf, or I'm not sure, but there are stories, and there is people that make stories where werewolves are only male, and I find that pretty annoying.
Oh yeah, fuck those people.
I think it's really weird.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's bullshit, honestly.
I would like more lady werewolves in media.
Yeah.
That would be nice. Because there's so many of them, right? There are so fucking many of them off the top of my head. Which one do I pick?
I want to be very clear for the audience. This is a bit of an in-joke because there was a recent Lady Werewolf TF in which a subset of people were complaining that they felt that too often it was focused on women becoming werewolves, which is just so like disconnected from reality and the like real world that we were just like having a laugh over it because of how fucking ridiculous it was that some people were actually saying that. Where I'm like, where, please explain to us, because that's not the fucking case.
What are you watching? What bubble do you live in? Oh my god, another woman. Are you having trouble finding guys turning into werewolves?
Yeah.
In this economy? Fucking...
It's insane.
Get the fuck out of here,
yeah.
man. Get the fuck out of here. And also complain like, oh, another woman. Get the fuck you too, okay?
It's called misogyny. That's what's it causing.
No.
Just to be very, very clear, it's misogyny.
Don't be so uncharitable now. I mean, there's just
will be
so many chicks. I'm done with this joke. Fuck you people.
Well, on the general content media, it is true that it is almost always guys that turn into werewolves and ladies are like non-existent.
Yeah.
But on fandom, on the fandom, I see that there is like more werewolf content with women, but I don't know if it's the approach I would like to see with werewolf women.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you like it in your kind of approach, and it doesn't necessarily mirror what a lot of other people in the fandom do.
Yeah, I also, I like male characters.
Yeah,
entirely fair.
So I'm okay. Sadly, I only like men. Sadly.
I mean, you could be sad about it, or you can just be happy about it. Some men only like men too. It's time for gay.
Oh, I know.
Gay shame month. I only like one.
Oh my god!
I can't find it in me.
Porque los nos dos. I'm just saying. I just butchered that sentence. I apologize. Blah.
So July is gay shame month.
No, June is Pride and July is Wrath. If you want August to be shame, that's fine. Whatever.
Because August has nothing going on.
No, August has nothing going for it.
You might as well reflect on why you only like one.
Yeah. Lots of deep thought to happen.
Don't actually be ashamed.
No,
of
don't.
Only liking
Please
one
don't
kind
be
of
ashamed.
Person, please. It's fine. This is so stupid.
I don't know how we got on this tangent, but no. The thing I did want to ask then is, so you've obviously played with different ways of portraying it, and I know that Libra was kind of asking, what you like about the particular ways and such. I guess I want to know what is your favorite part of a werewolf TF and what's your least favorite part of a werewolf TF.
Ooh. Well, my favorite part, it's the back and the neck and the torso, because I like to see backs, necks, and torsos.
Yes.
Male teeth, please, more.
Thank you. Fuck yes.
Yeah, I also like backs because I don't know. I have this idea that the spine part is probably the most intense part of a transformation, and clothes ripping and muscles growing and bones merging through the skin. It's like, I don't know, the most sexy thing I could think of. So I like backs. I like backs a lot.
Damn it, yes.
And my least favorite part used to be feet, and I want to make emphasis on used to, because after doing so many TF where I have to draw feet transforming into Man, I don't know. Maybe I don't know. No. Feet.
Okay, yeah,
Fair
I get it. Look, I genuinely like everything, and I kind of rotate into what I want to see.
Mm-hmm.
But I always have there are a few things that just kind of I would like to see more of on any given day. So if the hands are changing, if the feet are pulling out and stuff, that's great. I do need my torso changes though.
Mm-hmm.
I do need that.
Yeah.
Every time I need some of that.
Well, that's fair.
Torsos are very
They are
important.
very important.
They're like half your body or something.
Yeah.
They're a big chunk of it, yeah.
There's a lot of body language and expression to be found in that.
Yeah.
Because because you could do like funny little cutaways and zooms and make it look like people are doing all kinds of things just from what their back is doing. And you can, and transformation takes that to extremes. Oh God, I don't remember what movie it was, but it's a sex scene between two werewolves, and it's kind of campy, but it's supposed to be implied through the fact that this like woman is getting like more muscular, and you're not really seeing much of her change other than like some fangs, but the way her muscles are flexing through her back, like I don't know if they used like a double or something, but she was pretty fucking ripped.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, ooh, that's really, really nice. And you didn't really get to see anything, but the implication was enough.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
So, yes.
I think I know that movie.
I'm going to look for it after the show now. I got to remember the name of the movie.
I think it's the name is Wolves. Wolves. And I think it's a French movie.
No, I don't. Yeah, I gotta look for it. But if you could show me the one you're talking about, that would be cool. Because I don't know the movie you're talking about. I'm sure. Do not know wolves. I also don't like werewolf movies too much anyway. So
I very much love werewolf movies. So
well, Dog Soldiers was like above and beyond for me. That's like one of the best werewolf movies to me, hands down.
Just pour one out for Spoon.
Spoon
was incredible.
Fucking Spoon.
What
man.
A fucking lad.
That guy is a hero.
He's a fucking hero, and I just Godspeed you, beautiful bastard. Just
watch Dog Soldiers.
Watch Dog Soldiers, everyone.
Watch it more than once.
Watch it multiple times.
And pour one out for Spoon.
Yes.
Every time.
Every single time.
God
so true.
Damn.
So true.
There's your value in werewolves right there for me. Dog Soldiers.
Yeah, Dog Soldiers is a great movie.
It really is. Oh man. Well, I did want to make sure that we had time for some audience questions. So we actually have 4 this time. So we're gonna try and speed through them. I know we have more than usual, but we just had so many good questions from our audience that I had trouble picking it. I'm sorry, I was indulgent. It's my birthday, bitch.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, exactly. So the first question.
Just clean up after yourself, okay?
Okay,
after
sure. Fine. The first question comes from Figer Fire, and they say, "You've been hired by a villain, and they have given you the elements required to transform a hero in a party to get rid of the party. What is your approach towards getting rid of the adventurers?" So I'm going to go first, because I had some time to think about this. Now, I don't know what rules we're supposed to be adhering to, but I'm just going to kind of make them up as we're going along
wasn't
here.
One of the caveats also that it wasn't necessarily intended to work if you just want to like put them through an ordeal?
I guess you could, but I mean,
I'm
gonna go with dealing with it. So, I am going to turn one of the people in the party into. I'm specifically going to target the healer, and I'm going to turn the healer into a flea. And good luck getting through the rest of the dungeon without the person who can heal your candy ass. You will be fucked because the rest of the dungeon will just be out to kill you, and you will not be able to get healed in any ways because you will probably accidentally squash the cleric after they get transformed anyway. So get good scrub.
Okay, so you want the caricature of a Dark Souls game.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
In fact, I will turn them into a flea, a tiny little flea, and then I'll put that flea in a box, and then I'll put that box in another box, and then I'll mail that box to myself, and when it arrives, I'll slam it with a hammer.
Damn, that's just Freddy Krueger right there.
it's an homage to one of the greatest Disney villains, solely carried by her voice acting, Eartha Kitt, real one. But anyways, what would be your answer?
Oh, I love that movie.
Yeah, it's so good. A great TF movie, as it were. But anyways,
I couldn't help but think of Shantae. Shantae, and I think Half Genie Hero was able to turn into a mouse.
Oh yeah.
So when you would see these little crevices inside of the, it just looked like these random patterns, and you're like, it's a game, but actually, you can slip into it as a mouse in order to get around.
Mm.
So I would put the adventurers through a bunch of ordeals where they pass a threshold, they get turned into the corresponding animal to figure out the challenge. They're not going to know why they're that. They may figure out like, oh, there's a thing to go to, and then they have to put up with that. But I would make them go through like the corresponding challenges. So every single time they reach a new threshold, oh, first one is a mouse. Now you're a small monkey. Now you have wings. Like, ooh, I have wings. This is going to be easy. No, it won't. This is you can fly. You also don't know how to fly. So I would go with something like that. That's the kind of ordeal that I would do. I like the idea of a challenge that you can actually make it through, because you give people enough hope and they might get themselves killed.
Fair enough. That's some diabolical thinking.
I also like to fancy the idea that if I'm the final boss, I want to be like, oh god, none of you know what I'm talking about. I want to be like Geese Howard.
No idea what you're
Nobody
talking
knows Geese in this call?
No.
Okay,
No.
yeah, just like just to try to make it real boilerplate, final boss of a fighting game who is like he's a mob boss, all right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, I'm gonna get revenge because you killed my dad, and you're like, all right, you get through his goons, you get through the streets, and you get to him, and it's just like, oh my god, he is a unparalleled martial arts master with immense power, and the only reason he has other people do his things is that he doesn't want to waste his time on you. Oh my god, Geese is cool.
Okay. Duly noted. Guppy, do you have a response to the question?
I don't know. I'm gonna go with the easy answer, and I'm gonna turn one hero into, I don't know, poisoned honey, and the other ones won't know that their friend just turned into poisoned honey, and they will eat the honey and they will die.
Okay.
Damn. That is one way to deal with it. Okay. Very utilitarian. I like it.
Just kill.
Just to kill. I support this.
And thinking adventure, both of you are just like, I'm going to just murder you.
Yes.
Like, well, I mean, yeah, but I was thinking in terms of story.
Well, fair enough. So the next question we have is from ChozoFS, and they ask, you are given the opportunity to TF into whatever you want, and it can last for however long you want. But the restriction is that it can only be someone or something from the last video game you played. What do you pick to transform into?
Oh man, I played Sonic Frontiers last time.
Well, now you have to pick.
And I forgot about the question, so I was wondering, do I have to pick something from Scourgebringer, or do I have to pick something from fucking 30XX or Super Alloy Rangers? But
Nope.
no, now I gotta pick something from Sonic Frontiers. I have to think. Somebody else go first.
Okay, so this question is obviously easy mode for me if the last game I've played is Ratchet & Clank. Because I knew this question was coming, I made sure that it wasn't. Because I would just be like, I turn into Ratchet, easy, like, next question. So the last game that I played was Returnal. There are some really fucking cool designs for just monsters in Returnal.
I'm wondering which one of those you would pick, and I was really wanting like Returnal. It's very easily could happen.
Yeah. No. So yeah. So I thought about it a little bit. I think the one that I would want to go for is, and correct me if this is not the right name, but there's a monster called the Titanops, which is basically the big, massive monster that has a cleaver as like one arm, and like will run up and fucking punch you. Yeah, that one. Who fucking makes the spikes come out of the ground and has the tentacles everywhere. Piece of shit to deal with. That would be my fucking pick. Because I think that would be a fucking gnarly TF, and I would enjoy that shit.
That would be fucking wild.
Yeah. How about you, Guppy?
Well, I actually don't remember the last game I played because I don't usually play games. I think the last one was just one video game I have on my phone, which is about a spaceship destroying stuff with the little race. I guess I will turn into the little chip. But if I can choose the other last game I played, which was Castlevania Order of Ecclesia, of course, I will turn into this boss that's called Allegory, and Allegory is like a big horse thing, weird thing with a one eye on his head, and I want to turn into that. Yeah. It's like a huge horse thing, and it's very annoying to fight with. To fight against.
Find that boss battle so I can put that on the screen for people to see.
Hell yeah!
It's been a long time since I played the game. Just spell out the name for me later, so I can find it. I do want people to see that.
Yeah, that shit's good. Awesome.
Yes. I just like the design of Allegory. That's the reason.
I support that. That's a very good reason.
It's my fave. It's my fave.
Nice.
Okay.
Great. So then the next question we have comes...
I didn't answer.
Oh, sorry. You're right. Go ahead. You were thinking about Sonic Frontiers.
And I was stewing over it, so I have to. So now I feel like I
No, you absolutely do. Sorry, I apologize.
I struggled a bit, but I am going to land on Supreme, and nobody knows what I'm talking about.
I don't.
But people will see it on screen. Supreme is really fucking cool, and when I first fought it, I was really fucking impressed, and all the bosses in that game were really fun and really amazing. But Supreme was doing so much shit that I'm like, wow, you really made this game specifically for me to enjoy? Like, holy fucking shit.
So are you telling me Supreme's like Berserk?
I'm telling you that Supreme is more like Metal Gear Solid 2.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Nobody knows Fortune either. I saw the gun and I was like, oh, yeah!
Really noted. I look forward to seeing this clip so I have a better understanding.
Much love to Fortune 2.
Hell yeah.
So sad.
Rip.
You were great, Fortune.
Oh. Alright. Well, the next question we have is from Max Velocity, and he says, if you were given godlike powers and had the ability to offer humanity a single species or category for people to voluntarily TF into, what would you pick? And what would be the thing you would use to convince people to willingly transform?
Jesus. I don't know why I would want to convince them.
You reject the premise of the question.
Kinda, because that sort of implies that yes, I absolutely want that for people, and I kind of don't. If I have to participate with the question, I guess I would offer something that would. I can't really pick, and like a bird seems like an easy answer, but something that would offer like a good deal of, at least physical freedom. You know, because if you could go places and exist in many places, that expands your options. If you did not want to be a human, I can't really think of what would fit that bill for most. Because it wouldn't be fair. Anybody could turn into that. Yes, I would like you to turn into a frog in this arid hellscape. with your sensitive skin and your need for water. And I'm going to convince you to do that. Like, goddamn, I'm just genociding people in some places.
Yeah.
So I cannot cooperate. and I will not cooperate with the question, but what I will say is there would be something to offer, like it would have to be an option for, yeah, if you don't want to be whatever, then this is what you get, and yeah, it's your choice. Also, the other thing was permanence, indefinite change, in terms of that, wasn't really stated. I guess I could assume that people could just turn into stuff and turn back, which if it did, then I would still have to pick something. But otherwise, yeah, the idea of like convincing somebody, like, do it, don't you want to? I'm not the evil genie type.
No, that's fair. I also have a way to kind of break the question, but then I'll give another answer. So it says species or category, so I would just offer everyone the ability to get super buff. And then I'd just be like, yeah, it's like, you can just get super buff. You don't even have to like go through the other shit. I mean, obviously you're gonna have to maintain it afterwards, but hey, you skip the hard part. I feel like that would be a pretty convincing selling point. But if I did have to pick a species, I would pick dinosaurs. And the way to convince people would be like, don't you want to see dinosaurs again? Well, now you can be the dinosaur you always wanted to be.
Oh, okay, so non-discrete.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It's funny because there are species of dinosaurs. Dinosaurs are a specific thing anyway. They're the categories. So
yeah, exactly.
Way to interact with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
How about you, Guppy?
I don't really know how to answer the question because I don't know if maybe I will offer people they can turn into, I don't know, any type of little creature, perhaps a cat. People that maybe a lot of people wanna turn into cat. And what I will offer back for that will be like paying a lot of money to them to do that. So when they turn into cats, they can get the money because they're cats. So
I love it. I'll pay you $1 million to turn into a cat. Too bad you can't use the $1 million because now you're a cat.
So I will be turning people into cats, and I will not pay them. I will just do that.
And I think you need at least $1 million to show them, though.
Yeah. Oh well. I mean, you can show them.
$1 million to just have.
Yeah.
You never spend it. You never give it away. It is merely a token.
Yeah. Each person, you're just like, here's $1 million. Okay. Well, now you're a cat. Bye. Amazing. And the last question we have is from Kitsune Shapeshifter, and so they say, if you are limited to transforming one existing part of your tail, one existing part of your body, so no tails, what part would you choose, and what animal for that part? Yes, obviously I was very sad that I couldn't pick a tail. So what part would you choose, and what animal for the part? I'll go first, because I've stepped on the question. I know. I really want a tail. See, this question is just specifically designed to fuck with me, so I'm sad because obviously normally my answer would just be tail. But
tails are so easy, Zil.
Well,
I mean, isn't there a bunch of clothing and shit? You could just have a tail anywhere, no matter what and how things are made. Tails are easy, right? Is that why we had tails omitted? Because they're easy? They're not that easy.
I'm pretty sure it's easy because they're easy. But no, I did think about it. I think what I would pick, because the questioner clarified that it can also be like, if it's like hands, you can have both. I would either pick my ears or my feet. If I could pick Lombax's, I would pick ears, just because I love Bax ears. But it does say species, so I'm assuming it has to be something that does need to be like a real world species. So I'm gonna go with snap paws. I like some snap paws.
Okay.
Yeah. How about you?
Would you have so you'd have like the straight up paws or like a combination? It's like kind of.
I mean, for the feet, ideally it would be like.
Oh, for the feet.
I'm
sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
I was thinking hands or
something.
No,
feet. No, I'd pick.
Oh, okay.
Paws.
I think that's a fine. I think that's a fine pick. I was actually considering something with the feet because not needing shoes would be kind of cool.
Oh yeah, I love that shit.
It's like, this terrain will require special protection or some kind of shoe, but usually not. Wipe my feet when I go into places. That's cool.
So if you were picking feet, what would the species be?
That was really hard. I mean, I thought of something like goat hooves because they could scale vertical cliffs.
Oh yeah, that's true.
You know, that would be cool. Obviously, they got something going on there.
Oh yeah.
If I had to pick feet, otherwise, I think I'd want some. I either want I want like a snake tongue, or like I don't know what kind of teeth I'd want, but I'd want some kind of like nasty looking scary teeth.
Fuck yeah. I love teeth.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Because I also did grow up biting people.
Same.
Good thing I don't do that anymore. People will only fight me if I do that.
Oh, I still bite people, but only when they want me to.
Got it.
How about you, Guppy?
I will choose some kind of beard eyes, but beard that have like very good eyesight, like hawk or an eagle or a owl. And well, I will change my eyes to one of those because I am pretty much blind. So that will solve a problem for me.
No.
And if anything, then I will just wear sunglasses so people will not think I'm weird or something.
Yeah, you'll be like Wesker. No, you know Wesker?
I don't know who Wesker
I don't know.
Oh man, he's a Resident Evil villain. His shtick is that he always wears sunglasses, and then after one of the games, he finally comes back after a long absence, and his sunglasses come off, and his eyes are fucking orange and are slit, and it's like, what the fuck happened to you? And now he's got awesome superpowers and can matrix you to death and chokeslam you, and it's like fucking dodge bullets. And Wesker was a very...
Wow.
Yeah, Wesker was really fucking cool to me. I don't care how dumb he was. I liked what he could do, and I wish I could do that.
Yeah.
He was fucking awesome.
No, that's a
love you,
pick.
Wesker.
Oh, man. Well, that was all the questions we had. I don't know, Guppy, if you had any questions for us.
I do, actually.
Okay.
And I was curious if you know any content that you will consider is like a TF content, but it's not really a TF content.
Oh.
Like the way you prescribe the content makes you think it's like a TF, but it's not.
That's a really good question.
Or just give you that feel.
Yeah, that's a really good question.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts?
Content that can come off as transformation but isn't focused like that?
Yeah.
Yes.
I have an answer that's kind of semantic, but I think at least fits the idea.
Go for it. Yeah.
Training Day.
Training Day.
The movie Training Day.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so spoilers for anybody who hasn't watched Training Day. I fucking love that movie. It's one of my favorite movies, hands down.
Yeah.
Training Day involves a rookie cop who gets put on duty with a veteran detective. And mind you, yes, all this stuff takes place over the course of one day. Mm-hmm. And this guy gets put through so much that he goes from being someone who is unsteady to a guy who ends up just fucking losing his shit and completely taking down the detective that he was paired with in the beginning.
Damn.
And explaining why would take so much time, but I love that movie, and that is a transformation of a guy in one day who sees like the good and possibilities of trying to be a civil servant to honestly do good, and realize that there is no fucking way you would ever do the good that you really want to, because everything is rotten. Everything is so fucking disgustingly, horribly rotten. That is a transformation story. And I love it so goddamn much. Oh, I want to watch it again right fucking now. God damn, I love that movie. Hez, if you're listening to this, you know you love it. God, yeah.
Good answer. I I think mine is a little less cerebral, but I was thinking and I was like, you know what? I think this is the only answer I can give that I can fully support and stand behind. I think if I had to pick one, I would go with the transformation that we witness when you watch the episode of Kitchen Nightmares for Amy's Baking Company, because Gordon Ramsay truly goes through a transformation from someone who is coherent and lucid to someone who has just completely lost their goddamn fucking mind. It is an ode to everything I love about Gordon Ramsay, and he truly loses his fucking shit, and it is beautiful to watch. And I genuinely just love that fucking episode so goddamn much. So, I think at the end of the day, that is not explicitly a transformation story, but I feel like it has that energy, it does.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Oh, man. Oh, man. Well, that was a great question. Thank you. And thank you so much for coming on the show, Guppy. I really enjoyed having you here and getting to kind of pick your brain on some of these topics. If people are curious to find you online, where can people find you?
People can find me on Twitter, Paul Guppy on my Safe for Work account, and Vicentes is my Not Safe for Work account. I also have Tumblr and Instagram, and I'm as Guppy's Colita there. And my For Affinity page is Guppy's Paw. People can find me there.
Amazing.
And well, it was a pleasure actually to be here and be a guest. You have no idea how much I enjoy watching the episodes of this beautiful podcast, and it has helped me a lot in this journey, in this crazy journey of discovering the transformation fandom or community, better say.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, thank you.
That's really sweet. I'm glad that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and well, despite the compliments and everything, now you helped build up that content that you like so much. And
yeah.
The not even just content. This is a project that we're doing. It
is a project.
It's not just us trying to make things for only
the sake of
entertainment.
making things. Yeah, no, I think the thing that I always think about is, like we said at the kind of earlier in this episode, we're still making these episodes because there's still things to talk about. Our work is not yet done, and maybe there will be a time when I feel like we have accomplished that, but like the community, we're on our own journey, and I think that as we evolve, the podcast evolves, and as the podcast evolves, the community does too. So, I really appreciate you contributing to it and kind of sharing your insights, especially because, and I say this, very much so, as we said earlier, it's so important to have different perspectives, especially ones from non-English speaking countries, because transformation is so much more varied and rich than just the North American bros who talk about TF.
When we say universal, we don't mean everybody who can speak English, okay?
Yeah, exactly. And so I appreciate you having this conversation with us and sharing with us your perspectives, because I think they're incredibly valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. Although I have one question for you, Guppy, if you don't mind.
Okay. Sure, go ahead.
Okay. If you got Guppy's head, paw, and tail, would you want to turn into Guppy?
Of course. I would.
I would love to know what Guppy would look like for you. But thank you for answering. All right, everybody. Thank you very much.
That was a good question.
Yeah.
I just had to know.
It merited asking, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I'm so glad. It's been great. Yes, just like it goes both ways. Thank you very much for being on.
Yeah.
And again, subscribe to our Patreon. Help us support us in this project. Help people who don't understand this stuff better understand it if they're not already in this niche. We want to also like to make sure that we can be a way for people that don't get it.
Yeah.
To better understand it. If you have friends and stuff like that, or just people that you know who caught on to them, like, I don't know how the fuck to explain this, well, we can help.
Yeah. And if anything else, you can hear me say bussy more.
Along the way, you will have additional bussies.
Yeah.
Supplement bussies.
Shout out to Hornbuckle. My bussy is a closed species.
Alright.
And with that, thank you so much, everyone, for listening. We'll be back again next week, but in the meantime, I hope that you stay hydrated, get some good rest, keep an open mind, and stay TFing. We'll see you all next week.
You are not alone in this abyssal darkness. See you next time.
Brazil, as it were.
Brazil.
Brazil.